So why is it so important to have a culture and to have a culture of learning? Well, if your goal that you have to state is to offer to the world, at least the one which comes through your gate, the one that are logging on your website and whatever, the teachers coming through your training session, and so on and so forth, is to offer them the opportunity of learning about the world, learning about sciences, learning about nature, and to debate, learning how to debate also, not only to tell people, but to exchange on an equal basis. Then, if that is your goal, you have to be a learning organization. In order to promote learning, you yourself, as an organization, has to be organized into a learning organization. That's the reason it's so important. And I tell you, frankly, I know some places which can do technical work, which is wonderful, but I hardly really feel a culture there. And if I don't feel it, other people, it's subliminal. So I think it's very important that all the time we ask ourselves about, do we have such a culture? So it clearly became to me very important to understand better the culture, to nurture that culture, to enhance that culture, to reflect on it, and of course to do that in a collective way. It was not only a question of one leader doing that, of course not. But I discovered, it may be American, I discovered that maybe my role, maybe because being French, had to play a role of trying to say things. My staff was practicing the culture without analyzing what they were doing. Sometimes when you analyze, it's a little bit of a paralysis. They were doing that. They were not totally aware, but sometimes you need to have someone facing you and telling you, you know, it's maybe what you intend to do, you behave like that, and that helps everyone to go further, to go deeper into what you do. So I play a little bit of that role. Now you are going to tell me, what is a culture of learning? What is it? Well, briefly, I will try to characterize a culture of learning with 4 main characteristics. Well, first, there is a simple term, openness. If a culture of learning does exist, it has to be open. 2 examples of openness. But maybe some of you have been to the Exploratorium and you can see the workshop on the floor. So people said, how come? You don't have enough space and so on and so forth. No, we have enough space. But it's an invitation, a subliminal invitation that here is the place which is focusing on process, on making artifacts, and these artifacts will help you to learn in some ways. But it's a process. It's not about a product. It's not about a result. And the workshop is where the process is partially designed, at least where the condition for the process is designed. So that's a sign of openness. I don't know of many other places, including my place in Bristol. Also, we have put a sort of intermediate space where the workshop is on the floor. And when you look at it, there is not much happening on the workshop, but it is a strong sign. People perceive that. When they come to my place, they were always saying, oh, I understand. The second example of openness is that in terms of management, you have staff, you have board, you have the executive, which is at the crossing. It's very important to be totally open. All my executive meetings of the board, executive, full board, of course, all except maybe for 1 or 2 executive sessions where we really had a difficult situation to handle the personal questions, individual names questions, they were all open to the executive staff. There's nothing to hide. There's everything to gain. Sometimes you feel, oh, it would be much better to have a sort of, the American way, just do it, small group, make it happen. I'm not opposed to just do it. We do. But this openness in terms of the way you manage a place is also important. Second value of a culture of learning, explicitness. Have you know, in the ancient time there was the notion of apprenticeship. Still, now it's quite important. The way you learn a craftsman job is to be an apprentice of someone else who knows how to do that well. So you go in the shop, you watch, observe, you build your own model of how to operate, you learn how to put things together, and one day you start to fly on your own. Is it possible to learn that way when you do learning of science? Is it possible to read in Mamoru's mind how he does learn science? Even himself sometimes, or myself, we are not aware of the process. And so it's very important to create as much as possible the condition of being explicit about the way we learn, the way we think. Everything which has been studied recently in cognitive sciences is trying to propose some model of operation. How do we solve problems? How do we learn? How do we strategize the way we solve a problem? How we try to take the problem and formulate the problem in terms of the concepts which are helpful in the database of things you have to solve the problem. All this stuff. Usually you do that without thinking about that. What is important is to be able to make that outside of yourself in order to become someone who can be looked after, who can watch, and could be a model. So try to be more explicit. Try to be more explicit, of course, about your goals. So many places are not really saying what they want to achieve. When I go to a museum, an art museum, a science museum, I like to see we staff on the wall have decided that we have selected this, we have shown this kind of pieces, this kind of experiment is there, because our intention is this. There is no shame to say that. For me, it's very important because when I say that, okay, I can position myself. I say, okay, I understand what they wanted. Now I can judge my interest into that place in relation with the stuff which is being presented, but also in relation with the intention of the people who have put that. And the intention can be discussed. Let's say, so is it really the right way of doing that? Everything can be discussed, but the intention is a fantastic way of being explicit. You need to be explicit about what you want to achieve. The third component of a culture of learning, if of course, is being respectful of everyone's view, patient, and long-termist transformative. Someone was reminding me yesterday that I said that, oh no, we're not in formal education, not in non-formal education. I even somewhere invent the term of transformal education. Well, okay. But a culture of learning has to be transformative. You have to be different while you progress into it. You have to see that everyone is changing because of that. And it's a culture which is, of course, embedded in a larger culture. So this transformation, for instance, in the US culture, as I said, well, we have some US friends here, and I've been in the US quite a long time. Sometimes the US culture is quite brutal. Just do it. Just do it. Deliver. And, well, then you really have to insist on building a long-term approach. You have to buy time. UK culture is slightly different. It's slightly oblique, sometimes a bit opaque. There is something maybe, I don't know about Japanese, but a son was married to an American and a son was married to a Japanese, so I have some ideas about that. By the way, if my third son would not have been married, I would have told him to come here because there are so beautiful New Zealander girls. But anyway. And it's good to have the world in your family like that.